I'm making this video because I know what it's like to feel fundamentally broken, to feel like you're falling through the gaps of society, to have all these questions that you feel too old or just too foolish to ask. So here I am answering them all for you. But like I said, we are swamped with information. So I'm here attempting to tell you the truth. And through qualitative and well-researched articles, reach out to me on social media if you're after the sources. But also, if you want to tell me I've got something wrong, just type Nikki Lou into Google and you will find me. I won't stop learning till the day I die, so let's get started. ADHD, neurodivergence, superpowers, how to avoid burnout, medication, hormones, we'll cover it all. But to start with, let's get started with... What is autism? Autism is a lifelong neurodivergence and disability that influences how you interact with the world. You know what they say, when you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. But for diagnosis, we all share the same sort of differences from non-autistic people in how we think, feel and communicate. And yes, we can all be a little bit autistic in the same way that we can all be a little bit pregnant. We can eat random things, have swollen ankles, but it's only if you meet the criteria of being pregnant that you actually are. And it's the same when it comes to autism. It doesn't matter if you have a few traits. If you don't have the same number of traits and lifelong struggles that you need for diagnosis, then you're not autistic. And these lifelong struggles will always be there. Whatever tools or plans you put into place to support yourself, they'll always be there simmering under the surface, sometimes rearing their ugly heads again. So here's a stat that stopped me in my tracks. Studies show that we're likely to live 10 or 20 years less than the normal population. 40 years if we have a developmental delay. And while some new research is more optimistic, there's some other shocking statistics out there when you hear that, trigger warning, that autistic women are 13 times more likely to die from suicide. As a mother to a daughter, that is a really hard statistic to hear. Why are we dying young? It's not the autism. Experts are agreed on that. It's what happens around it. Only 30% of us are employed, even though 77% of those people want to be in work. Then there's digestive problems, sleep problems, comorbid conditions, overwhelm, burnout. On top of that, what I don't understand is autistic women are dying younger than men, which is the opposite to what happens in the normal population. Normal population. Maybe it is genetics, the so-called female protective effect. I mean, is it really true that we have like some sort of special ninja skills to keep autism at bay? Or, you know, is the fact that we actually need more factors in order to be diagnosed in the first place down to kind of masking all the poor tests? And does more risk factors really mean worse health status? Either which way, all these statistics aren't moving fast enough, which is why socioeconomic factors are a big player when it comes to autistic people dying younger. So what are the day-to-day struggles that are just grinding us down? For some of us, speaking out words is difficult. Some of us don't do it entirely. As a nurse, I would have called that non-verbal, but since I'm listening to the community, I see that non-speaking is a better word for it. Even if we do speak, sometimes we lose our words, perhaps due to overwhelm, being tiredness, a little bit burnt out, stress. I certainly lose mine. Then there's social communication. That's its own puzzle. You've got reading non-verbal cues, not taking things too literally, understanding abstract language. And then there's that black and white thinking. And it's not always what you think. I was in my 30s in therapy before I realized that just because I walked past a baker's shop and saw a cake didn't mean I had to eat it. Just because I thought I wanted to eat it. I know it sounds super random. But also, like, there's intrusive thoughts that pop in your head, the ableist comments, the prejudice comments that have been conditioned into you. That is not what your personality believes. It's just a thought, and it's up to you what your own values and beliefs are. And that's not all the struggles just in communication. There's sensory struggles as well. These tags, like I cut all the tags out of my clothes. I haven't worn belted trousers with buttons for about 25 years. But also sometimes if you're not sure of the signals in your body, I get pelvic pain in soft play. And I for years thought it was the hard plastic chairs. And then when I realized I was autistic, I decided to put in the loop earplugs. And voila, no more pelvic pain. New situations can be exhausting. Yes, parties, events, but also conversations. That's why we kind of script out how we're going to ask for our coffee or find out where the local post office is. And then, of course, when people say something that we're not expecting them to say, that throws us into overwhelm as well, because the conversation is not going how we predicted it would. Some of us can kind of regulate through repetitive movements, singing, listening to the same things, repetitive actions. I like this one to kind of like release any sort of energy. Even if we're the type of autistic who would like to control every aspect of their environment, we obviously can't. And the harder our struggles get in any environment that isn't built for us. We may have an almost painful need for fairness and a sense of justice of what is right in the world. And yes, we have a deep dive of certain interests, but they're not all dinosaurs and trains. Some people have a deep interest in people, psychology, and sometimes if autonomy is really important in your life, then one person in particular or one relationship or friendship in particular becomes a kind of passionate special interest. So yes, psychology, every late diagnosed autistic woman I've asked, and it's not a massive number, but they have all studied psychology at some point. Have you? Autistics can also struggle with how they think and feel, and also how others think and feel. But actually, this may not be autism. This may be because of something called alexithymia. 10% of the population have it, but 65% of the autistic population have it. And it means that you have limited ways of describing feelings. Some autistics may also come across as naive, or that they're taking longer to understand something than you perhaps think that they should. This might be because of problems with auditory processing, which is why I have subtitles on the TV, even when it's an English program, or in relation to kind of a double empathy problem, where they're experiencing empathy in a more sort of cognitive first way, where they're having to think it through and bring all of their past experiences into the equation before they can feel what you're feeling. But it's not necessarily that we are just unable to get there. We'll get there eventually. And that brings us nicely to another struggle that we might have, is that we can live in our heads. And if you've ever written any sort of angsty poetry, then you know exactly what I mean. And if you're anything like me and you find it really difficult to simplify things, you'll understand how much work has gone into this video. Autistics often question their place in the world, which means sometimes we might be caught in blank stares. Oh my goodness, if I had £1 for every time I've come round in public transport and somebody's staring at me thinking I'm staring at them, I'd be